Welcome back to another episode of Don't Shoot the Messenger. Doesn't miss.
Exactly.
That's the thing, is that it just doesn't miss. It doesn't have an off day.
You need to look into what AI is.
Will it replace an advisor's job?
No, I don't think
It's
so.
a simple no. Right, that's it. Thanks very much.
If I was an administrator or someone entering into an administration role and this was a potential risk for me in my future, I would be very focused on developing relationship management skills, because I think as we go through this journey, AI will very rapidly reduce and remove that if you embrace it. You've had a close family member that's recently died, that is a sign of vulnerability, so it will extract that. Some advisors miss those things.
Your kids will look back and go, our parents had it really hard.
My kids now wouldn't even know what a DVD is.
So no support, just them on their own. Like we'll see a billion pound business.
Yes,
With one person.
yes. So we make sure that we've got to future-proof our business.
Welcome back to another episode of Don't Shoot the Messenger with me, Chris Ball. And again today, I've got one of my great friends and colleagues, Jonathan JJ, as his Hoxton name is, with me to talk about a very, very topical subject at the moment. Will AI replace financial planners? Something that's really scary. Every advisor is asking the same question. Will AI replace us? And by the end of this, I'm hoping you'll know what AI will replace, what it won't, and how to make sure you're not getting left behind as an advisor or as a planner. We obviously run a financial planning business. So JJ runs all of our UK operations and our Asia operations within the business now. I run the global operations and I oversee. So we oversee $3.5 billion of assets between us, there or thereabouts, which is a lot. And it's a question that a lot of our planners are asking. I got asked it this week. What impact do you think it will have on my job? So let's cut to the point then.
Yeah.
Will it replace an advisor's job?
No, I don't think
It's
so.
a simple no. Right, that's it. Thanks very much. But what would you say to someone who's worried about being made redundant with AI and how it's been used?
Simply, if that is your position right now, you need to be spending more time learning about AI.
Yeah.
If you don't know that answer, you need to look into what AI is, and hopefully this will help and we can cover a lot of those aspects. But if you don't know the answer to that question, you need to figure out what the answers are.
Yeah.
Because the people who are most scared, worried, intimidated by it are the people that don't understand it,
Yeah.
in my opinion, at this stage.
Agreed. And it's AI to me is an enabler. It is not it's not going to take away. It should enable you to do more pound tasks. It should take away a lot of the penny tasks and the stuff that you shouldn't do. AI, in my opinion, won't replace advisors, but advisors who don't use AI will be replaced by those who do. So those who are using the tools, which is exactly what you're saying. You cannot replace human judgment, empathy, having actually the relationship building part. If that's not your role, then you might have something to worry about.
Yeah.
But that part is going to be really difficult for it to replace. And there's a subset of people who don't even use it at the moment, don't even have a clue about what it's about, and have no interest in using it.
For sure. And if you actually think about look, it's no secret really that a lot of people don't have a great perception of or level of trust in financial services generally. And that's normally at a corporate level. So there's not a huge amount of trust at a corporate level, which is why we do lots of things around education and sharing things like this, content, and actually building a relationship with people external to the business. And that's why people labor on things like you buy people, because that's a core of what we do. I don't think that people are just going to suddenly switch to trusting an AI bot as their advisor.
Yeah.
That doesn't feel like something that's reasonable. So yeah, I think that the trust empathy, personal relationship, taking people on journeys, and all of the more high level financial planning skills and attributes is what's going to set you apart.
Yeah, it can't be automated, can it? You cannot get that from AI at the moment.
Yeah.
But I would say maybe for smaller decisions, maybe you might use it. But for big decisions, people want to look you in the eyes. And like we said, there's a subset of people that will never ever want to use it.
For sure.
So I think it's important to make sure that you are enabling it, or you are using it to enable it. Yeah. So we've talked about it won't replace advisors, but what will it replace then, do you think, within our profession?
We, as an industry or profession, we do a lot of things. A lot is pretty clunky with processes. I don't think there are massively efficient businesses that are tech-enabled, let alone AI. They've got the technology to enable them to do things. I think when it comes to technology, and now what AI will help us do is to do things bigger, better, more efficiently.
Definitely. Definitely.
That is. But then, as an industry, like I say, that companies don't even necessarily have the right tech stack in their businesses at the moment to be able to help them be more efficient and effective. So AI will hopefully speed that up.
It's tough, isn't it? Because AI looks at historical data and then provides you answers based on what's happened in history. It can't go forward. No, it can't see into the future. So you're only as good as the information that you're training it on.
For sure.
And with a lot of financial planners actually not having that level of information, then it's going to be tough for them. They need to really start taking it seriously. I know, look, we've been collecting information and building out our databases since 2018. Pretty much when we started, we go all the way back to inception. I always knew that there would be a point where it would be like, people say to me, well, you're not going to use it now. And I go, well, that's not the point. The point with data is that I don't know when I will use it. If I don't, who cares?
Sure.
But at some point, it becomes really, really important. So we have everything from minutes on the telephone to records of telephone conversations to, activities and meetings that were sat at different times, all recorded in our system. So we can really start to build up a great picture and use AI to help with those. I mean, areas that we're using it within the business at the moment, fund switch tool we've built, that is AI powered. We're using it for training. So we've got Beluga, which we're uploading as a knowledge hub for people to be able to search. I know Morgan Stanley or JP Morgan, one of them have done that as well. I think a lot of businesses will use it for that as well. It's a great way for you to be able to question something and then get answers back. We obviously use it with call transcripts and turning them into file notes to save advisors time instead of having to spend an hour afterwards typing up their file notes. I mean, with Saturn and others, Read AI, Otter, all of these things are done, instantly as soon as you get off the call, which is a huge time saving. I've seen it being used for customer service, so you getting answers to your questions quickly. I actually saw a business that you could message the chatbot, and it will go in and retrieve information about your policy and bring it off and start spouting it out to you. And a really interesting one that I come across the other day was someone has written a knowledge manual or like a best practices guide, trained up their AI agent on that, and then it feeds in the transcripts from their advisors into the agent, and then it gives the advisor real-time feedback on their call when they've come off. When you're training an advisor, you either got to be in the meeting with them or you've got to listen to that call to actually give them the information, like the feedback.
Yeah, listen to the call, then book a meeting to give the feedback.
Imagine how much quicker you can be with feedback and training up advisors. I mean, it's like sky's the limit with this stuff. But one area that I am concerned with is paraplanners, because I feel that paraplanners are highly likely, unless they are really technical and skilled and they are only focused on those technical and skilled jobs, will be replaced. And that's a route into the industry for a lot of people, isn't it?
It is. A lot. That was my route.
Yeah.
I was a paraplanner. So I think I'm well placed to actually comment on what it means. And look, a paraplanner, there's a full spectrum of what a paraplanner is, from a sort of entry level paraplanner who's doing admin with a bit of data entry on reports. There are some paraplanners who I did cruelly probably not call them a paraplanner, that sit and all they do is extract data from one place and input that data into a report template. They're a risk for sure. If you want to be a career paraplanner, you really need to focus on upskilling, working with highly complex cases and highly complex clients and families. Otherwise, I think anything below that is seriously at risk of being replaced. It also, look, again, having been a paraplanner and worked in that high net worth space, I think there's a long way to go before that becomes a risk. It might at some stage.
Yeah.
So if you are a paraplanner, there is definitely, I think, a runway for you to continue to be a paraplanner in that technical space. But you need to upskill yourself enough so that if you need to pivot at some stage, you do.
I think it's making sure that you're using it in the best way possible, because someone is going to want a paraplanner that can use AI to get the most out of the cases and get them done, and then to be there for the more technical bits.
Yeah,
sure. It's like an advisor, like the maybe the rudimental bits of just, you're replying to a text message or something might be dealt with. It's like the what is the value? What's the real high level value stuff that you can offer? Same with admin. My only concern is that it will limit the amount of jobs. I feel that's a real fear for me, is that AI will limit the route in for a lot of people, because that's how they start. So you won't need to employ 20 admin or 20 paraplanners. You might have one or two.
Yeah.
And then therefore that kind of gateway into it is tough.
Sorry, Chris, but I was thinking in the preparation for this about admin roles in particular. If I was an administrator, or someone entering into an administration role, and this was a potential risk for me in my future, I would be very focused on developing relationship management skills, because I think as we go through this journey, the thing that we're all going to be able to spend a lot more time on and more focus on as businesses and as advisors is the relationship management piece.
Yeah.
And one of the things we'll come on to is an advisor being able to look after more clients. But an advisor is not going to be able to look after more clients completely without support. I think there will be a relationship management piece where you have a sort of client liaison that works with an advisor. So if you're an administrator, again, constantly thinking about upskilling and protecting yourself in your own career, that is the focus that I would have, and making sure you're speaking to clients and building that TLC.
And I mean, that's true. It's like the business development point. That I was going to say, out of all the roles that we bring people in, that business development role will still be there. Now, maybe AI has a helping hand in that, but we would definitely still employ business development managers to go out, build those relationships, help bring in the clients initially. I think it will be tough to replace that wholly as it is. Investment managers, though, or investment analysts, they're going to have the same problem as well, because obviously a lot of their work now can get picked up by AI. The analysis and how quick they can have it is at your fingertips. Obviously, to become an investment manager, typically you will have been an investment analyst. You don't turn up one day and you're just an investment manager.
Sure.
But I think the core point is that AI kills repetitive work, not relationships. It's interesting, though, what we were talking about before, which is like how much an advisor can actually manage. I think it won't be too long before we see the £1 billion or dollar AUM advisor.
Agreed.
Just them. So no support, just them on their own. Like we'll see a £1 billion business.
Yes.
With one person.
Yes.
Running it soon, which will be really interesting. Because obviously at the moment that just doesn't exist and it can't.
Well, you were telling me that an advisor, you were looking at some stats around advisor time spent looking after clients and advising. It's something like 25% at this moment, which is crazy. We all talk, and businesses all talk about paying advisors to look after clients and to be in front of clients. We need as close to 100% as we possibly can.
Definitely.
If we've got those penny tasks and those mundane ad hoc admin burden tasks that get in the way, AI will very rapidly reduce and remove that if you're embracing it.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've got the plan at the moment, haven't we, to get up to, look, at the moment we say kind of like a pod, servicing pod can look after 250 clients, that'd be an advisor, a good paraplanner and an admin.
Yep.
Like them together can look after 250 clients, in my opinion. Some people will say it's a lot less. I've had 75, 100, but I think that you could provide a good service to 250 clients. That's, that's not that many a week. That's 5 a week, which I don't think is a lot. However, I reckon you can get up to 500 with one advisor and half an admin and a bit of an outsourced paraplanner for maybe some more technical cases. And the way you do that is that you automate and make those admin tasks quick. Like you should be able to generate things whilst you're on the call. So coming off and having your meeting notes is great, but actually coming off and the fact find being completely filled from the conversation that you had, that's where we need to get to. Then it generating the suitability from it, that's where it's going. So you can go, right, we've had this chat, we've gone through the pros and minus, I've now got the suitability letter that's been compiled while you've been speaking. In the background, you go through it, because the bit that takes time is obviously having the conversation, finding out what the issue is, then going away and then putting the research and stuff together that you need and the suitability, and then having another meeting to present the suitability, and then probably having questions asked afterwards. If you can prepare all that and limit down those amount of meetings that you actually need to have, it speeds up the whole process infinitely. So yeah, I'm 100% with you on, I think it will just enable people to do more, and hopefully it drives the value down for the clients as well. Like drives the value up, but drives the cost down.
For sure.
So clients can, get things for cheaper, and hopefully means that, more people can get access to advice that it was typically out of their reach before.
Yeah, I think that that is exactly it. The advice gap and the accessibility of advice will definitely ramp up, because one of the key things has been, how can companies do it and provide advice without it being profitable? You can't. It has to remain profitable, and this will hopefully help us do that.
100%. Obviously, we've said, look, what AI won't replace, so it won't replace human empathy. Things like tax planning. Do you think it's got to be there nearly with a lot of the tax compliance work, but the nuances of it and actually getting that right, it's definitely going to need a human to guide that, I think, at the moment.
Yes, I think with tax advice and any complex type of advice, it is super nuanced what we do, and there's lots of different options. So can you reliably have, when you've got so many, say estate planning, where you've got tax and trusts and different investment types and protection, how can you suggest that one solution fits all? Yes, you can't, because there are different factors that are at play. What about how people feel about tying money up for the future, and whether or not they trust their kids, and all these sorts of things? These are the things that an advisor needs to bring to the table, and that conversation and the question asking and that sort of thing is super important.
It's bringing it out, isn't it? Like you can't get that, and that's what a lot of people get. The calculations and stuff behind it can do, but actually those emotional conversations to bring out the key topics, has to surely be human led. I mean, I can't see a place where it can't be.
Look, who knows? I think it would be. I feel very confident that it's a long time away at the moment. But the way that we're seeing things advance at the moment as well, who really knows what the future holds? But I just think that is the part that I'm confident in at the moment. Is that part needs to remain, and I think it will take a long time for people to feel confident knowing that there's a bot on the other end of the conversation, even if it looks real and it looks like a human you're having a conversation with. I think that's a real struggle for people.
Yeah. Do you know what though? Saying all of this, I've just kind of like, so Jake was telling me how he was talking to his talks to ChatGPT in the car, just going backwards forwards. So I've been doing it. Like, on that, I was like, it's just quite interesting. I'm going to give that a go, and it is super interesting how much of a conversation it actually feels like.
Really?
Yeah, I was talking to it about how to map data so that AI can read it. And the conversation we was having was very fluid. It was very interesting. It was directed by me though, because I was questioning it, kind of.
But then that's kind of a technical subject matter.
Yeah,
I'd be interested to hear if you could have a sort of a more deep sort of emotional type.
Yeah, and it's bringing it out without just kind of taking your first answer and then kind of moving on. It's like knowing when, the emotional point, but I suppose they'll probably be able to do that at some point with knowing the pitch in your voice and the way you look and your facial expressions and stuff like that.
You mentioned Saturn.
Yeah.
Saturn can identify vulnerability in the conversation.
Yeah, by the tone of your voice.
Tone of your voice and subjects that you bring, different areas. So if you talk about the fact that you might have recently been divorced, or you've had a close family member that's recently died, that is a sign of vulnerability. So it will extract that. And some advisors miss those things. So it's also the opportunity to not miss.
Well, it doesn't miss.
Exactly.
That's the thing, is that it just doesn't miss. It doesn't have an off day.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. And, kind of talking about kind of off days and stuff, I suppose that kind of segues in nicely to talking about how AI will impact our exams. Yeah. So we obviously did a session recently on CFP. You talked in depth in that about how much time that you actually, the bulk of it was actually spending the time building out your spreadsheet. For those that haven't watched the episode, you should watch it for sure. But it was really interesting to understand that a lot of the 8 weeks that JJ had to do the CFP case study was spent building out this model, this financial model. Now, with AI, must be able to do a lot of that lifting for you, huh?
Yeah, exactly. And when we were having that conversation, you made exactly the right point, is to be able to do that, you're going to have to be really familiar with AI.
Yeah.
And know exactly how to train it and the prompts and things like that that need to be built in. Not necessarily suggesting that people find shortcuts for doing the CFP, but it provides a challenge for us and for organisations with courseworks and exams to think about how do we have to pivot away from that type of exam style because it's too easy for people to be able to manipulate. But then also you could look at it from if you are able to train an AI bot to be able to build it, you are competent enough to be able to build it yourself.
Yeah.
So is it a problem? Not necessarily.
No.
As long as you actually know the right questions and the right things to do to build it properly. Why not be able to use it? I think we're probably going to get to a point where everyone just accepts that it's going to be a feature of life.
I think so I was listening to Sam Altman the other day when they released GPT-5, and he was talking about it on an interview, and he was saying your kids will look back and go, God, our parents had it really hard. Like they didn't have all these tools around them to make their life super easy. And the amount of time, imagine wasting your time on, I don't know, typing out an essay. Yeah. Like, why would you do it? Like kind of, and maybe maybe that's it. Maybe the exam boards start to embrace it, and like, all right, great, people are going to use it. That's a fact. Rather than try and detect how they're using it, why don't we let them use it? But we'll make it more difficult or more in line with what because if it's going that way, like surely that should be part of it, which is they should be teaching you how to use it, not teach you, not to use it or to try and deter use.
Yeah, for sure. And I think our generation's pretty good at embracing change and things like that. I think older generations might find that more difficult. But if you talk about our kids, I used to watch video cassettes and have to sit there for 5 minutes rewinding a video cassette. My kids now wouldn't even know what a DVD is. So you think about how far things advance and how quickly they advance, and this is just going to speed that up. Yeah. So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
I was talking to Duncan, who owns Tab, the other day, and he was getting all excited about. He's like, like Netflix, YouTube, they're going to get blown out the water. Google has now got this thing where you can actually make your own videos, like super real life, on whatever you want. Like, that's the future. That's where kind of you make up your own story and it'll happen. And I was like, I quite like watching. I quite like mind-numbing, like watching something someone has done. So I think it's going to be interesting, like how it evolves and where it goes and how far people take it. But it's I think the common theme here is it's definitely an enabler
for sure.
So obviously we've talked a little bit how we use it in our firms. Our firm's a fairly large IFA now. We're using it to scale to serve more clients, effectively and efficiently, and to ensure that we can provide more value to our clients efficiently, provide a quicker service, a better service to our clients. And that's not saying quicker means better, but people want things quicker and they want things cheaper.
Yep.
Like those two things will always remain true. So, if you look at that, how do you use AI to do that? And you definitely can use it to lower the costs associated with giving advice and the speed at which you deliver it. We've talked on that. How do you reckon the smaller firms are going to adopt it? And do you think a lot of them will? Because bearing in mind the average age of a financial planner in the UK is 55, which, this is probably being really ageist, but I would imagine would be less likely to embrace AI than maybe someone who was younger. Do you think they're going to get left behind?
Yes, for sure. I think if you don't embrace AI, you're not learning about it, you're not finding ways to build it into your business, you will be left behind. I think it's things like multiples on your business and things like that will be impacted. I think that for smaller firms that do embrace it, it can have a dramatic impact on them.
Yeah.
So there's kind of this death of the smaller IFA firm in the UK at the moment, because they're not able to be. They're really struggling with profitability because the regulatory costs and things like that are increasing the limit on how many clients you can have because it's so burdensome from an admin perspective and that sort of thing. If you can drastically reduce your headcount, do things quicker, more efficiently, look after more clients, that changes very quickly, doesn't it? So I think that there's an opportunity there for those smaller firms. Any firm that is embracing it will be okay, I think, but you'll be left behind if you don't. And something you mentioned earlier was a bit of a light bulb moment for me, where you were talking about Beluga and our knowledge bank and the tool for that knowledge tool. You mentioned about, I think, Morgan Stanley or another firms got that. I think there's a situation. We obviously have $3.5 billion under management. We're not small, but compared to a Morgan Stanley,
we're tiny.
Yeah. But we are able to build things into our business. Lots of technology and stuff like that in the past with big enhancements and big useful tools was kind of priced out for firms like us relative to those big firms. We're able to operate at a much more sophisticated level with the introduction of AI.
Yeah.
If we can build it in. We also have the advantage of we don't have legacy technology, which doesn't interact particularly well with AI. But yeah, long answer. But I think if you are embracing AI, you've got a positive future. If you're not, I think you should be, because you're at risk of being left behind.
You could be that first $1 billion advisor that we were talking about. I think for small firms, it's going to be a struggle. I do genuinely believe in it, because also what I notice a lot with smaller one-man bands is they are very siloed.
Yes.
So you only know what's going on, and it's like an echo chamber. You only hear what you were saying. There's no outside influence.
Yeah.
And I think, for a lot of people, they want to work on their own because they want to do things their way. They're therefore less likely to be aware or, looking at what's going on. I mean, I would say that we as a business are pretty far along the use case. The only reason why we are pretty far along, or we're probably ahead of others in terms of how we're using it, is because we have a technology team of 25 people. If it was just filled with financial planners who don't really understand what's going on in the space, you can't keep up to date. I mean, it's moving so quickly, and there's so much that you can do. It's very difficult. I mean, most of the stuff on AI I hear is from Mansell and Juan and people like that. They're telling me what's going on and telling me I should have a look at this. Like, you will struggle to actually understand the true capabilities of it. We joke, I mean, we were speaking to Julia earlier, and she was saying, putting your grocery list on it. I mean, that's what people are using it for. They're using it for like that much of what it's capable of. And it will be really interesting to see how it goes. I know we are heavily investing into it at the moment, because I see it as the future, and I see it as the way to go. I think you do have to be mindful with it that a lot will change quite quickly. So therefore, focusing on the things that are unlikely to change. So for me, at the moment, it's under getting your data in order and making sure that you've got a lot of data to feed into it, because that's not going to change. It will always work better if it has more learning. If you can give it more learning over a longer period of time, it's going to provide you better outcomes. So focusing on that won't change. The models are changing at like lightning speed. I mean, GPT-5's out. That's got rid of all the individual GPTs now that you use. It's better for coding. It's more of a generalist tool. And then obviously you've got the other LLMs that are obviously maybe more specific on different tasks. But yeah, you've got to keep up with the times, otherwise you're going to get left behind, aren't you?
For sure. You mentioned the pace of evolution. How quickly do you think things change, and what do you think our professional industry will look like in, say, 3 to 5 years versus 10 years?
Well, you've seen it. I mean, this time last year, how much were we talking about AI and how much were we using it in our business? We're using it there or thereabouts, but nowhere near to the extent that we're using it today. I would say, we have the opportunity to integrate AI and reduce headcount by 80% from what we would need. That's not 80% of what we've currently got, because I believe exactly. I am super excited. I think that happens in the next 3 to 5 years.
Amazing.
Like, I do genuinely believe we will get there very quick. And the stuff that we're building in the background, that is very, very impressive and very, very good. I think, we're really starting to cut costs. We're really starting to speed up service. We're really starting to get there with certain things. It's very, very impressive. What things are you doing to kind of stay ahead of the curve and keep up your learning on it?
You mentioned we weren't overly, you weren't using the same level as we are now 12 months ago. And I'll be really honest, when I was just starting to look into and understand AI. And I do something, so I'm not sitting in the car talking to AI yet, but I use AI every day with ChatGPT. We spend a lot of time talking about how it can enhance our business, and learning and understanding about it and seeing how we can embrace it and use it in the future is obviously important for us, so that we make sure that we've got to future-proof our business. And AI is at the heart of that. So if I'm going to be left behind if I'm not fully embracing and understanding what AI can do. So it's basically just using it and using the tools, the high-level tools that we can use, and then learning more as we go.
Yeah. Some practical tips that I found that are really good on how to keep up to date with it. So actually just signing up for the LLMs training. So OpenAI have shed loads of content, like looking through that. One of the other things that I'm thinking of doing, and other business owners or other people that are interested might be interested in doing it as well, is actually going to find someone who does this all day, every day, and bring them into the business to have a chat with my senior team. And tell them the stuff that they should be using it, like finding experts, so you get better. You can fumble around in the dark, but actually a much quicker way to get there is actually to go and seek out people who actively have these use cases and get it. I think it's really important to do and to make sure you're staying abreast of, because otherwise you are going to get left.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, look, I think, anything else you want to add on that or not before we go?
I don't think so. I think we covered it all. Basically, embrace it.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to be found wanted.
AI won't replace financial advisors, but it will replace parts of what we do. Correct. I think is the message. And the winners will be those who embrace it and adapt and focus on what AI can't do, building trust, clarity, guiding people through life's biggest financial decisions is going to be key. AI won't replace advisors, but advisors who don't use AI will be replaced by those who do. I hope you've enjoyed our session today. Really, really great speaking to you. As always, JJ, thank you very much for your time. I hope you found that useful. If you did, give us a like and subscribe. Thanks very much, and I hope to see you on the next one soon. Cheers for now.